9:30. Do you have 9:30?
I have 9:29.
9:29.
I have 9:30. I hereby bring to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll observe a moment of silence. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, may I, point of order, in the case of the moment of silence, can we have a little moment of silence for our president from here in Georgia who passed on, President Carter? And, you know, he was a Georgian, and I'd like to spend a minute if that's okay with you.
Certainly. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Item 3 on our agenda, election and oath of office of Mayor Pro Tem. Can I get a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. First of all, I'd like to say it's been an honor to be the Mayor Pro Tem for the last year under you. I'd like to make a motion to approve Councilman Clint Holland to be the next Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. And would you join me at the podium for your swearing in?
Certainly.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Clint Holland,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
my duties of Mayor Pro Tem
my duties of Mayor Pro Tem
of the city of Peachtree City, Georgia.
for the city of Peachtree City, Georgia.
I will uphold my responsibilities
I will uphold my responsibilities
with integrity, dedication,
with integrity and dedication,
and diligence to serve our citizens
diligence to serve our citizens
to the best of my
to
ability.
the best of my ability.
I will support and defend
I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States of America,
Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Georgia,
the Constitution of the State of Georgia,
and the Charter of the City of Peachtree City.
the Charter of Peachtree City.
I do further swear
I do further swear
that I am not the holder
that I am not the holder
of any unaccounted for
of any unaccounted for
public money
public money
due this state
due this state
or any political subdivision
or any political subdivision
or authority
or
thereof,
authority thereof,
that I am not the holder
and I am not the holder
of any office or trust
or of any office or trust
under the government of the United
under the
States,
government of the United States,
any other state,
any other state,
or any foreign
or
state,
any foreign state,
which by the laws
which by the laws
of the state of Georgia,
of the state of Georgia,
I am prohibited from holding,
I am prohibited from holding,
and that I am otherwise qualified
and I am otherwise qualified
to be a public officer
to be a public officer
according to the Constitution
according to the Constitution
and laws of the state of
and
Georgia.
laws of the state of Georgia.
I duly affirm
I duly affirm
that I will act at all
that
times
I will act at all times
in a manner befitting
in a manner befitting
the trust and confidence
the trust and confidence
placed in me by those I serve.
placed in me by those who serve.
By those
By
I
those
serve.
I serve.
I will take pride
I will take pride
in all my endeavors
in all my endeavors
and will treat my
and
subordinates,
will treat my subordinates,
peers, and constituents
peers and constituents
with respect.
with respect.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations and thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Announcements, awards, and special recognition. It is my pleasure to welcome to the podium Eagle Scout Bregan Douglas, a McIntosh High School senior from Troop 175, who will tell us all about his very interesting Eagle Scout project here in Peachtree City. Welcome, Bregan. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Bregan Douglas. I'm a Boy Scout with Troop 175, and my Eagle Scout project was at Summerby Retirement Home, where we did trailhead kiosk improvement on the nature trails. The first kiosk that we did work on was on the Bluebird Trail, which would be the picture on the left. It already had a rotting roof on top of it, so we deconstructed that. And the second kiosk we did work on was on the Yellow Swallowtail Trail. That is the picture on the right. We did demo and construction on both these kiosks, and the total hours was 148, including all of our volunteers. We did demolition day. So for demolition day, we deconstructed the roof of the first kiosk, which was rotting and it needed to go. So yeah, we deconstructed that roof using many tools and took it to a dumpster nearby. Site preparation. So for site preparation, there was a lot of trees, branches in the ways of working on the kiosks. So we used clippers or saws to get rid of some of those branches and pull out the weeds that were blocking the site, so it was easier to work on for all volunteers. Some donated supplies we gathered were from Keith Larson, and this included paint, wood, screws, and paint brushes. Really every essential material you would need for building a kiosk. We also gathered donated supplies from the city. They deconstructed dugout roofs, so we used those, cut them down to size, and use them as the roof of our kiosk. It's another picture of us gathering the metal roofing. For prepping supplies, we painted over all the wood after cutting it down to the exact right size pre-project. So it would be in and out. Everything would already be pre-cut, roofing, wood. So it was all very direct. It was us using paint gun to spray down the metal roofing and make it that green color that we were going for. We also painted the roofing caps. I know that isn't a picture, but now on the project day, we had lots of setup, a lot of things that we had to put down to ensure the safety of all of our volunteers. So we set up a canopy shelter, and then under that we had hydration drinks like Gatorade and as much water as we could need. As well as that, we brought snacks. For all of our volunteers. We brought first aid kit, sunscreen, and bug spray for their safety. And then we brought extra goggles and extra gloves for those who didn't have them at home. Here's some pictures of some of the tools that we brought. Of course, there were some other people who brought more tools, just in case we need another ladder or wheelbarrow. But yeah, here's a picture of some of the tools we brought in the back of our truck. So before we started with the entire project, we did a safety briefing just to ensure that everyone knew what to do if they got hurt, which we were trying to prevent at our most prevention. And then there's also a picture of our entire crew that we worked with that day. Some pictures from the construction of the first kiosk. We started by making a frame and screwing it to the outside of the kiosk just for a base where we could lie everything on. We had everybody over here looking how to do this, so after this was done, they could transfer over to the second kiosk and start on that one. Some more pictures from it where we added the supporting beams so we could lie the roof on. And some last pictures showing the nearly finished product where we put the roofs on. And as we were putting the roof on, completing it, we had some parents and older kids go over to the next kiosk, start building that frame, and screw it up at the top of the kiosk. Then at this point, we had finished the first kiosk and we went over to help the second one because they might not know how to do the roof because they left before we did that. So we went over there, taught them how to do it, and got done only an hour after we predicted.
Good.
The finished product, we went for like a Lincoln log type color to remind everybody of their childhood. And then a group photo in front of the kiosk. While the older kids and adults did the kiosk, the younger kids who weren't old enough to use power tools or we thought it might be a little bit dangerous, we had them work on trail maintenance, clearing up any branches, roots on the road, or trash, broken glass, anything of the sort. This was to ensure the safety of the residents and make sure they don't trip on anything, step on anything on the nature trails. After all this was done, we went to Partners Pizza for some lunch and got everybody pizza, drinks, appetizers to show our thankfulness for their commitment to the project. After the project was done, we took all of our remaining materials, including the metal roofing tiles from the city, and donated them to Keith Larson for any future projects that he was aiming to work on. And we also went back to the kiosks and painted over any spots that got scratched and picked up some more trash that we found on the trail. And that is all. I'd like to give a special thanks to the city for the opportunity and donated materials. A special thanks to Ms. Wilder for the initial information about the project. Thank you to Mr. Larson and Mr. Layton for all donated materials and for helping get the project up and running.
Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, Bregan. Next is public comment.
Yes, we have one person signed up to speak, Mr. Keith Larson.
Good morning, Mayor, City Council, and friends and family, and city staff. I'm Keith Larson. I live in Sandown Creek. I'd like to take us back a page of history of community planning, Fayette County and Peachtree City. In the early 2000s, we were in a slump. We were out of money, and we were out of vision. Those were it in a nutshell. We hadn't had a SPLOST in 10 years, and we had a growing resentment in our community of why can't we have good stuff? Why can't we have nice stuff? Things that we can take pride in. And so in 2015, the Chamber of Commerce, Fayette Chamber of Commerce, led an effort called Fayette Visioning. And from that initial plan, looking at benchmarks of other communities with renowned success in the South, we started on a journey. Citizens getting together, talking with community leaders and city staffs, and listing up projects that would help boost our communities. These rolled into the 2017 SPLOST agendas for each of our communities. And with that, we moved forward. One of the challenges of opportunities is, where do we make these investments? Peachtree City wisely chose, rather than to have citizen rejection, they said, well, let's listen to our citizens first. So they had a citizen committee come up with a recommendation for SPLOST projects. A highlight of those projects from 2017 included the life cycle replacement of all children's playground, which we knew needed help because it was time and we needed it for a replacement for safety for our kids. We knew we could do better, and we did. We voted that. We connected our community through our pass system, adding over 10 miles of trails just from the SPLOST alone, plus developers. Moving forward, our city didn't have a recreation master plan. I suggested that as a community and service, community improvement project in the 2022 CIP, or comprehensive plan update, and it was approved by you to move forward. And so now 2.5 years later, we now have a plan. And I hope that you will embrace this and turn it over to the Recreation Advisory Group so that they can embark on our journey forward for community planning. On a final note, the plan identifies the need for looking at a new senior service center. I have an opportunity to share with the city for a senior plan to look at our senior residents. I hope you will consider that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda changes, council? Nothing? All right, work session discussion items. A, statewide floating homestead exemption, HB 581, and the conversation continues. Justin?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so we brought this up in the December work session. You all asked to hold a town hall, which we did on December 17th. We had about 40 citizens attend, more online, more watching afterwards. We've heard feedback. We went through a presentation with you all, went through another presentation during the town hall with our citizens. Had really good questions, really good feedback from everybody. So at this point, especially with the March 1st deadline, staff for me, I really need to know what council wants to do with this. Do we opt in, which means do nothing? Like if we do nothing, we're automatically opted in and this will be the end of it? Or if you all have a taste to opt out or want to proceed down that line, then we really need to start lining things up to comply with how we do that. So to me, this is kind of the decision today, what you all want to do with HB 581. So I don't have a presentation today. I do have the PowerPoint if we need to pull it up, but we've done it twice. So I'm just going to turn it over to you all to discuss with each other, and if we need to pull anything up, we can.
Right. I'd like to mention that we haven't had, the mayors and city managers have been having a couple meetings, 3 actually. We haven't met since the last time we all spoke publicly on December 19th. So our last meeting was the afternoon of December 19th, and I shared that night in our council meeting everything that we had discussed. I read in the Fayette County newspaper that not only Brooks but also Tyrone has decided to voice that they want to opt in, stay in. The news account of Tyrone's discussion included a lot of concerns about the flexible local option sales tax, the penny tax. I think that's very valid. There are some concerns about that flossed, but the decision that comes first is whether or not we decide to take positive action to opt out. Opting in is easy, we do nothing. But I would like to, as Justin said, get some kind of consensus today. Who wants to go first?
No, you go. My question is this. Well, first of all, have any of the other communities or municipalities in the county or the county itself indicated that they intend to opt out?
No,
Okay.
just the Board of Education.
Okay, my only fear, I mean, I see us maybe moving in the same direction because we're listening to what the voters actually voted for, and I think there's a big push for all of that. My fear is that as we do some more research, and I reached out to Karen Maziak, have not heard back, she's trying to hook me up with one of the guys who worked on the bill itself, to let them know how much trouble and struggling we're having at the municipal level trying to figure things out with this. My fear is if there's a late decision to opt out and we haven't done the requirements all along for the public hearings, then that's gonna put us in a bad position. So here's my question to the council then. Should we go ahead and proceed as though there's a chance we might opt out to cover the basis with the required public hearings, or just proceed to do nothing, which means we're opting in? If we make a decision at the last minute to opt out, for whatever reason, and we haven't done all of the required public hearings, then we're in a real legal bind.
If I may, about the only wild card right now is that our county commissioner, Etch Gibbons, for our district, joined us in the last meeting on the 19th, and he said they hadn't even discussed it publicly yet, but they will in their meeting next week, which is the 9th. So I would think that, I'm no fortune teller, but I would foresee that they're gonna wanna opt in.
Right.
But the latest we would discover, if they wanted to opt out, would be their meeting on the 9th, which still
Okay.
leaves us time.
Okay, so we're not gonna vote on this anyway tonight, but this is obviously,
I think we need consensus. For my money, the citizens have voted, and that's probably where we're headed for a very good reason.
yeah, for my opinion, I think that we're looking at exactly that we're gonna opt in, that's what the citizens wanted. What the further dominoes are, that which way we go to predict and then make up lost revenue, obviously needs a lot more discussion, et cetera.
Right.
Because every time we seem to open up one topic, a second and a third, and another stumbling block comes up, issues of, and I'd really like more information, and maybe that's what we should do, is look to get more information on, the FLOST, the restrictions, the regulations, what that money can be used for, putting it down in a very summarized, kind of like a list, what we know, what we're sure of, versus whether or not we as a city would be better off doing, say, a T-SPLOST, to bring money into our city to make up for the lost revenue, but it can only be used for transportation, but doesn't necessarily have all of the baggage and restrictions that the F-SPLOST will come with. So I think we as a city need to weigh the pros and cons of what we're gonna do after we've opted in, and that's gonna be far more important to me than opting in or out, because, it's a matter of where's the revenue, where's the lost revenue, and how do we make it up?
That's right. I agree. I agree 100%.
The only comments I have, Madam Mayor, is that if we opt into the homestead, do we have to automatically opt into the FLOST? Are they separate, or are they tied together?
They're
I
separate.
didn't quite
They're separate. And
That's
we
what I
can,
thought, but I wanted to be sure.
As Councilmember Brown has pointed out,
Right.
we can decide opt in or opt out. If we opt in, then next, we can have those conversations. Yeah.
Good. And I just wanted to make sure that I understood it correctly. Did you have a comment?
Just,
They're tied together in the fact that everyone has to opt in to be able to run it, but just because you're opted in doesn't mean you run it. You could not run it. You
Okay.
could not run the FLOST.
But you still got the homestead exemption portion of that HB 581, is that correct?
Yes.
So we can give relief to the taxpayers by having less tax on, or having less increase of tax in the future. That's
For
the way I
home-
understand it.
For the homesteaders.
For the homesteaders, correct. Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely in favor of this, but at the same time, I'm a little cautious on the money side of this, the floss. I want to see if there's other ways that we can do it, because it appears that once you're in for what, 5 years? Is that correct? It's a 5-year, once
For
you're
the-
in?
For the floss.
For the floss.
The homestead, once you're in, you're in
Yeah, you're
forever.
in for that one, but I'm talking about just the floss. It's a 5-year in?
Yes.
Okay.
If you run
just-
it.
Right. And that's going to require everybody to be in the county, if I understand that correctly. So for the flossed portion of it. So if one gets opt-out, then all of us are out? Is that the way that goes?
Yes.
It's really something we decide together as a
Right,
community.
right, as a community for a county. Okay. Well, that's basically where I stand. At this point, I'm in on the homestead portion, but not yet in on the flossed portion.
Okay. Anybody else?
I just want to say that I was confused from the beginning on how this whole thing worked.
Okay.
Justin's done a good job. Madam Mayor, you've done a good job with your meetings with the mayors and city managers. I know our citizens voted that they wanted to be in on it, so I
Mhm.
think it's right that we ought to probably consider that very closely, that we want to be in on it. But it concerns me that we're going to be losing revenue, and we don't really have a way we're going to collect that revenue yet, or what we're going to do with the revenue when we collect it. So I'd like to see more about that in the future. But yes, right now I'm in favor of doing it.
Okay. Councilmember Johnson?
Yeah, I would agree. I think it sounds like we're all on the same page here, but I appreciate that we had a town hall meeting, and I think, you know, our voters voted for this, and I think that our citizens who have taken the time to fully understand this, we've heard from many of them, and they want this as well. So it sounds like we're all on the same page here.
There is one other thing I would offer up. If we're gonna go for either the F-SPLOST or a T-SPLOST, those would be things that need to be put together to put in front of the legislature during the legislative session. Just as our senior tax exemption has already been done and pushed forward to them. So we don't just have the ability to sit back and do nothing for too long, whether we're gonna go with the F-SPLOST or the T-SPLOST. The other thing I'd like to say is that the revenue reduction or loss in the first year is gonna be the lowest of any of the future years. So if we miss any deadline or whatever, we're gonna have to come up with some alternate adjustment. But then that would really put the pedal to the metal for us to solve the problem before the 2026 legislative session. So, because then it goes on the ballot, you know, somewhere later in 2026, and would only be able to provide revenue relief after that. So, you know, I think I really want the citizens to understand, like, the behind-the-scenes battle that's going on with this. And you don't even know what the battle is because we're still pulling down details of what the options are. And so it's really hard for us to get behind one thing or the other. That's why we're sounding so confused and conflicted, because what we want to do to benefit the citizens is going to cause a lot of other problems, and we're going to be the ones that have to solve that problem. And we don't have all the data yet, so.
All right. We have consensus to opt in.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Absolutely.
If so we have an election this year, but it doesn't sound like we would be doing any decision-making where we'd put anything on the ballot for this year.
Correct.
So if we wanted to do something that we would put on a ballot for 26, there's not an election that year, we would be sending voters to the polls for this one issue potentially. Is that, if we wanted to do something
It
that
falls on the
quickly?
county. So like the call for a referendum for a sales tax, SPLOST, T-SPLOST, FLOST, is gonna fall in Fayette County. Like, we'll all negotiate with each other and have an IGA, but Fayette County will decide all that. Like, they decided SPLOST when we did the last one.
Well, I
They
think what you're
decided the
They decided
percentage.
when
And they
the
decide,
election would be.
they decide the percentage we get too, right?
Well, we negotiate it and do an IGA, so we all meet and negotiate the percentages and stuff like that, but as far as the call for referendum, that's the county.
Right.
Have you got any feeling at all whether they want to put it on 25 or 26 at this
Like
point?
the mayor said, they haven't
Just
even
don't-
really
they really-
discussed it
Yeah.
It's
publicly.
too
Not
soon.
yet.
Yeah.
It's too
It's
soon.
too soon.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, any other questions? Great chat. Work session discussion item B, Recreation Master Plan. Justin Strickland.
Okay, so this, like Mr. Larson said, we've been working on this for a while, a few years. We've got it to the point that we sent a final draft to you all on December 3rd from CPL. We do have CPL's come and done 2 presentations to you all over the past year during the process, and we do have them here. I don't have a presentation today because we've done a few of them, just like with the 581. I didn't want to go through a whole 20, 30-minute presentation. I didn't want CPL to have to do another one. They've been here twice and done them. So you all had the final draft transmitted to you about a month ago. They are here to answer any questions you have or go over anything that you want to go over. But this is kind of, for me as staff, this is, kind of the final get-together with CPL for you all to ask anything of them. And I'll just turn it over to you all.
Thank you. Cindy, good morning, and
Good
thank you for
Morning,
being here
Cindy.
today. It's been a long road, hasn't it, with CPL? We've got a great result. I just have one comment for council. This document will serve as a guide. This is not what we have to do. This is what our citizens have indicated they want to do in Peachtree City. And going forward, we're the ones who will kind of slice and dice and prioritize and figure out what we can afford to do this year, next year, and for the next 10 years and beyond. We will figure out how to fund the things that our citizens want and how to move forward on all the various details. I do have just one question, and I think this discussion is a precursor to a vote to hopefully adopt this document in our next city council meeting, which will be the evening of the 16th. So I only have one real question, and that is, there's a table, it's called Table 6.1 NRPA, it's on page 116. Just a general question about that table. It's comparing, and so everyone knows, National Recreation and Parks Association facilities standards compared with Peachtree City level of service. And in that chart, a couple of things just jump to mind that I don't know how to read this chart. One is, if you skip about halfway down to dog park, for example, just as an example, the NRPA population facility is 1 per 30,000. To the right, it looks like we have 2, which I don't think we do, I think we have 1, but it says 1 per 1,900. So just in general, I need to know how to read this chart.
Yes, that should be actually 19,000.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, all the others that you see, most of them are 19,000 if there's 2.
okay.
And that's based on your population. So if you have 2, it's basically taking your population and cutting it in half.
So going down same chart, Nature Center, 1 per 30,000 would be a standard. It says we have 1, I think we have a couple,
Yep.
but it says 1 per 38,000.
Yes, so 1 per your current population.
Okay,
And again, these are going to be service comparisons, and then there's actually standards that are adopted or standards that are included for Peachtree City.
so this is my last one, I promise. Outdoor track, two line items down. 1 per community, it says we have 5, and 1 per 7,600. Is that, are we including the high schools in that? We have Riley Field, that's our one and only
Right.
municipal track. I assume we're including high schools then, and then that brings us to the 1 per 7,600 existing?
Yeah.
Well, we have 1 running track.
Yeah. That would just be a number that we would have to go back and look with staff and to see what inventory was confirmed with staff.
Okay, I think you answered my question on how to use the chart.
Yes.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And that is all I have. Council?
Hey, Madam Mayor, I got a couple of just thoughts, and I don't know if we need to really discuss them at this particular time, maybe when we bring it up at the next meeting. But I know on page, let me get the right page, page 36, which basically goes into the numbers, I think 1 through 17 of the different things that were suggested. And number 17 talks about, do you feel the subsidy paid by Fayette County is adequate to cover the non-city residents' use of the parks and the amenities and stuff? Is that something we'll talk about at the next meeting, or is that something we should bring up at this particular time?
Now's good. Today's work session, that
Okay,
means we can
good.
interact.
I think that, and my position on that is, I believe, and you can correct me here, Justin, on this, is that it's, they pay $150,000, is that correct? That's the number I had.
Yes.
And they get the use of all our recreation facilities throughout the whole city. I would think that that's got to be looked at, and, you know, with today's cost of maintenance and upkeep, et cetera, and the use of the fields without any additional fees, that has to be seriously looked at and, you know, maybe quadrupled.
It
That
was,
kind of-
I don't know what page it's on, but in here, I think you all have a recommendation to take it up to 800 and something thousand.
Yeah, that,
It's in the it's in the recommendations. in the
Yeah.
back.
Can you find me the page number in the document and not, that's
Absolutely.
on your packet?
oh,
That's
okay,
of
let me
your
go down,
packet.
I can go down and give you
Thank you.
that number.
It is page
32
178,
in the
179.
36 on our
Would you
screen
repeat
here.
that, please?
Pages 178 and 179.
Okay,
It talks about budgeting and finances.
it's 178.
Our recommendation is to take it to about 820,000.
Yeah.
And what is the
Yeah,
rationale
top
for that?
paragraph of 179.
It's based on participation from county residents.
Do we have data that shows the amount of participation
Yes,
in there?
that was provided by staff, and
Okay.
we looked at all those numbers over the last few years. So you have a range with some programs and some activities. You have county residents that make up anywhere from 30 to 55% of your registrations.
Wow, okay.
Good.
That's-
Well, that was my comment. Basically, I was looking, I'll be honest with you, Cindy, I got to about maybe 35 or 40 pages in here. And, you know, out of the 300 or so pages in there, it gets exhausting.
It's a lot of
because it's a data overload.
It is.
And as, you know, an engineer, I look at that and I go, I want to spend time on each of these. And after a while, it's like, I got to put it aside. I got to go back and re-look at it again another time with fresh eyes and a new cup of coffee. I can't do it all at one sitting. This huge amount of data.
It is.
Great data, by the way, but to digest it, woo, it's going to be quite a while before we can digest this. I think, I like what the mayor said, that this is a 10-year plan. But we really need to know what's in it so that we can plan for the next few years what we're going to do. But at the same time, just getting through the document, whew, that's a lot of work.
That's a lot.
So, anybody else? I do want to hear your comments. Today is the day to get our questions answered and get comfortable with this document, even though it's enormous, to the point where we'll be ready to adopt it in our next city council meeting. Is there anything holding us back? Speak now.
Do you want to go? or you
I
want
don't
me
have
to?
anything
Okay.
holding me back.
Okay. I don't necessarily have anything holding it back from, I will say this. Thank you for printing it out in a hard copy. I know that that's like a royal pain in the petunkus, but I've been trying to read it online and, you know, scrolling up and down or whatever. If I had realized the difference between the online version and the paper version, I'd have come in and picked up my copy prior to today, because I'm sitting here going, why the heck didn't I have this the other day? You know, it's easier to go from section to section here than it is to be flipping through on, you know, the online copy. So in that regard, this is much better, and hopefully I'll be able to get further along than I've been able to get. My other comments are, I was a little concerned that, and actually, Councilman Holland said something about this, and I had noticed it too, that there are a lot of routine maintenance things that are notated in there that don't seem to be getting done. That's been a concern of the cities in the past, and I think that needs to have special focus, long before we look at what's new, we need to look at what's old, what needs to be repaired, et cetera. So that's a concern, and I mean, obviously, needs to be, discussed. And some of the things that may be listed in here may have long since been fixed, but I don't know that. I really just want to echo what's been said already, that, no one, whether staff, citizen, or council member, should think that everything that's in this packet is going to get done. And no one should think it's going to be done right away. Everything in here has, a cost factor. And that's going to be our biggest, let's say, stumbling block. Everything costs money. We just got done talking about the loss of revenue. There's another complication for the implementation of anything out of here. So that all needs to be considered. It all needs to be, reviewed by council, looked at by the citizens. And clearly, nothing can be placed into, the budget without full review, full analysis of the cost, where the money's going to come from, et cetera, and especially with the projected loss of revenue as we opt in to our, HB 581. There's no way we can bloat the budget with adding a whole bunch of things that sound great if we're going to have, we're going to have to let staff go. That would be a disaster. So, obviously, there are a lot of things we have to consider. And so I really want, I guess the message to the public is be patient. There's so many things going on. As far as the document, I think it's a good document. I think there's a lot to digest. Did we end up getting the raw data from all of the questions and stuff? Is that an option?
spreadsheet.
Do we have it?
Okay.
or-
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Like
you have
staff?
access to
Okay.
We
it.
do?
It's in
Okay.
here.
Yeah, it's your
Okay.
login. Harold, Kathy, staff.
It's all
should-
part
I'll
of
say,
the
is it in
document.
the appendices too? Is the,
So the raw data is in a spreadsheet format,
okay.
Yeah.
and it has all of it's just all raw.
Okay.
It's all raw. And to one of Councilmember Brown's points, as far as staff goes and the maintenance being done, there is a recommendation in the document to define the maintenance crews as a proactive and a reactive crew. And that may help just make sure that routine maintenance is getting done while things pop up on a daily basis.
Right.
And grab everybody's attention away that there's defined crews for proactive and reactive
Right.
maintenance. So,
I mean, and the flip side of that is, I know we've looked at just for an example, the dot lots, that some of them are not being used, I can see, there's no reason to do the maintenance if we're gonna disband that tot lot or
correct.
somehow change it. So, I mean, there are some extenuating circumstances with that, but
Yeah.
that was one of my concerns that I saw as I
Well,
was reading through.
so to answer, so this is a snapshot, especially their analysis of the, each location is a snapshot of when they were there, which was January this time last year.
Yeah, January, and then we made a repeat visit in
So-
the spring.
Yeah, there were things when we were going through this that like, oh, we've already done that. Like, we've done this, we've done that, we've done this. But it's still all in here because it's a snapshot of,
Right.
Yes,
so there are things that
Which
are
is-
already done that are in this
Which
document.
is what I figured,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, especially because the first time you got the copy of this, some of those things jump out and you're like, oh, we need to fix that right
Right,
away. There's
right.
no waiting for this to be rolled out in its final format,
That's right.
so.
And with regard to the phasing of the projects, whichever projects you choose to do, the reason why we phased them into 3 different phases the way we did is because we know that there's already money set aside for certain projects that exist in the budget already. So we tried to grab that low-hanging fruit and identify as some of those projects as some of your first projects, and that's why they're recommended the way they are.
Can you direct me to those phases?
Yes. It's gonna be in your supplemental report.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Do you want, I
No,
can
that's
just read them
fine.
out? Okay.
That's fine. Any other comments, questions, Mr. DiStadio?
I just want to compliment you. This is very comprehensive. I got it on Sunday, I guess, and it was more than I expected, obviously. I read through as much of it I could over the weekend, and I was just very impressed with how much you've done in the time frame you had. And then I talked to Justin, and he reminded that you've had it a while. So it's been a labor of love for you, I'm sure.
Yes.
It's I do agree with you that the things that have already been done, we gotta identify those, because unless you're as skilled as Justin is to know what's already happened, when I looked at it and saw the data that you had, I didn't know what was already done and what wasn't done.
Right.
So I think that that's important, Justin, that we get to know what's already been completed, so we don't ask, why isn't this done, and then we find out it has been. But yes, it's a very, very comprehensive document. It's going to take some time to work through it all and understand just what exactly we've got in front of us. Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else?
You go ahead. Did you have
Okay.
something else?
Yeah, I've got quite a few things.
Oh, okay, well,
then you
then
won't
I'll,
wanna go
I'll,
then.
I'm just saying, okay, then mine's
ahead.
just short and sweet. I just look forward to processing this more. I know this went through several iterations. This is a great improvement. So thank you very much for all of your work. And I look forward to us having our rec committee and working with them and fully digesting this more project by project and making those, that list of priorities. And I think it's an exciting time for Peachtree City.
Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Holland?
Yep, I focused in on pages 28 through about 4 or 5 pages there, where it goes through, what do the citizens really want? And what were their responses? To me, that was important, and I hope everyone thinks the same as I do, but they don't always. But I think that's important, and I just generalized them in 4 or 5 little categories, and I'm gonna go through those. Obviously, I'm echoing everybody else. Maintenance, maintenance, maintenance. It's number 1 on my list. We gotta take care of what we got, besides doing everything new. So maintenance came out of this very much from the citizens themselves. It's all of what we've been saying here on this dais, but we're hearing it from them. But a couple of other things that popped out of this that the citizens really liked, as you summarize this. They love their parks. What was interesting is they used the word parks. They didn't say they loved their recreation. They didn't say they loved their baseball. They do love their pickleball here, but they came out with that one word, parks. They love their parks in our city. And I thought that was an interesting comment if you read all of them and really look at each of those. The couple of things that surprised me on this is that, and I know this is down the road, but what surprised me was that we don't have anything for the teens in this city. And it's something that's near and dear to me because they're the next generation, and we need to make sure we keep them on the straight and narrow, basically. So that came out as a real need, and it was spoken by a lot of times in this update from the citizens. The other couple of things that popped out, and again, these are all new, is the need for a natatorium instead of putting the bubble in. Fixing the bubble. Take it down, make it outdoor, build us a natatorium. And not being any expert on natatorium costs, but I can see certainly lots and lots of money. That's going to be definitely a bond issue more so than anything else. That's not a SPLOST issue. That's going to have to be a general obligation bond because that's going to be a very long-term project, putting a natatorium in here. The other is a sports center, and let me make sure I've got all my notes done. Yeah, basically the sports center was the other thing, and that's another one that's probably going to have some type of general obligation bond once you start putting in those kinds of large type of things out of here. But that's what the citizens wanted. It's not like something we all came up with. The citizens spoke, and I think we need to listen to that. And as I think it was Councilman DiStadio, this is a 10-year plan. This is not next year. It's going to take us a while to do this, and there's going to be a lot of discussion on this dais of how we're going to afford it and which ones we're going to go first. So I agree with the mayor on this, that we need to look at it, we need to accept this and move on from this and get to work on it. So I appreciate all the hard work that you guys have put into this.
Yes, you're welcome.
Okay. Is there anything, council, holding you back from being ready to adopt this in our next meeting?
We just need to get table 6.1, we need to look at that.
Yeah, I've got to
Because
know.
I think some of these numbers are wrong,
Okay,
just on this specific table.
okay.
Okay, and then as a wrap, I want to mention that we are in the process now of engaging a brand-new citizen volunteer group, 7 citizen volunteers who will serve as the new Recreation Advisory Group. And that's going to be a wonderful resource for City Council. And then we also have an upcoming retreat in February, so we'll have a lot of opportunity to discuss. I'm excited about this, and I can't thank you enough.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Cindy.
Happy New
Thank-
Year.
Yes,
Thank you. Happy
You
New
too.
Year. Work session discussion item C, update of discharging Bose ordinance. And council, in your packet, council packet, it's on page 240. We'll jump to page 240.
So this item, this item came up at our last council meeting. Councilwoman Brown, you brought it up that, Ted and I had looked at state law compared to our ordinance with discharging of Bose. And, state law, we mentioned this at the last meeting, state law supersedes our local ordinance, specifically OCGA 27-1-3 of discharging Bose for the purpose of hunting specifically. And that OCGA actually specifically says that a local jurisdiction cannot create an ordinance more restrictive than the state law, which the way our current ordinance is written, it is more restrictive. So as of right now, hunting on private property with a bow, if you have permission or if it's your property, is allowed, even though our ordinance says it's not, because state law supersedes us. So really the biggest thing was just Ted and I went back and did some changes to this ordinance under subsection E specifically to bring it into compliance with state law. So there's nothing really that is changing legally here because the state law already supersedes local ordinance, but it's just so our local ordinance complies with state law. That's it. That's what I got.
All right. Questions?
I'll lead off if you don't mind. I contacted Justin with regard to one word that I felt
Oh, yeah.
needed to be added, and obviously Ted had reviewed this, Justin had, and Ted had written it. But in the sentence within the ordinance, and I'm probably gonna skip a word as I'm trying to read what's added, what's not added. Basically, that's highlighted in blue, where it's saying, where to start? I guess I'll start in the beginning. It shall be unlawful for any person within the corporate limits of the city to discharge any arrow of any kind or character from a bow, except as permitted by Georgia law in the act of hunting, provided that all proper state licenses obtained and for self-defense or the protection of private property, period. My question is, should it be all proper state licenses are obtained?
And I said yes.
Okay, so
It's
that
probably
would be
just-
the
we
change
just
that
need to add
I
a
would
R there
recommend just putting that.
before the next
it-
meeting.
You know, it seems that it was just randomly omitted, and it makes perfect sense to add that one word. So, other than that,
Anything else?
no. not for me.
Yep.
Good with it?
I just have one comment, because I read it over carefully. And the only comment is that I know when I was a kid, I was the Boy Scout. He's left now, but when I was a Boy Scout, we had,
Address your comments to your council colleagues.
Yep. And so, when I was a Boy Scout as a kid, we had archery ranges where we'd go and practice the archery skill. And my dad built one in our yard, so we had one in our yard. I could shoot bows and shoot arrows at the targets. I don't see anything in here about allowing to have something in your private property to shoot arrows and practice before you decide to go out and do any kind of hunting. Is that covered at all in this, or is it not covered?
It's covered in so that last sentence, we didn't change that because state law, it would be a council, it's hard. It would be a council decision on that. So state law, we're basically just changing it to comply with state law, which is hunting. That's what is defined in state law as hunting. Archery practice, as far as putting a target in your backyard and doing that is prohibited in this ordinance
So now,
as
that's what
it's
I was
currently
reading.
written, unless you have archery range that's been approved. And that was the way the ordinance was written in 1980 when this was written. And so we didn't change that because state law doesn't say anything about that. So that's up to council,
I think it's fine as
how that
written.
wants to be written.
If our goal is to update our ordinance to dovetail in with state law, then what you have here covers it.
When I read that, I thought it was the fact that we were updating the law to allow for hunting, not for archery practice.
Correct, because state law specifically says you can hunt and it supersedes our ordinance, that's what we're changing. We weren't changing any other parts of the ordinance.
Just to toss out, I mean, archery is a close-up sport. It doesn't have the long-range issues that obviously guns have, where the bullets are going to go long distances. The other thing is with regard to target practice. It's done with a different kind of an arrow point. It's done with a point, not a broadhead, which has literally razor blades on it and is geared to go through the deer or go, through the skin. It's a whole different animal. It's not like if you're doing target practice in your backyard, it's not the same as, shooting a gun in your backyard. I mean, it's totally different, so. The other thing is, archery is a skill. You have to practice the skill. Toss that out there.
You guys are looking at me like I hunt, and I do not know. I am like, I don't hunt with bows, and I don't hunt with guns, and I am not your professional up here. It makes sense that we make an ordinance that complies with state law. That makes a lot of sense to me. I will look to staff for a recommendation on target practicing.
Well, I would go for regular tip, not broadhead, target practice in a backyard with I have an archery bag. It's a target bag. It's not, it's not what people think, and it's done close up.
How would you feel about passing the ordinance that staff has brought us and then talking about this addition another time? This would bring us into compliance, what we have in front of us, brings us into immediate compliance.
I'm okay with that.
We can maybe discuss that at the retreat.
We
Put
can
that on
talk
our
about
agenda.
the rest of it. We can add practice in the backyard another time. The goal of this project was to bring us into compliance in Peachtree City with what the state law was. I think we had some surprises along the way, and I think it's important to get in compliance.
I agree, Madam Mayor. I also would like, when we get to that point, we need to look at the distances that you are from not only your neighbor's property, but the roads. Because when I take my grandsons up to the Boy Scout camp that they go to and they practice, I can tell you those arrows go everywhere. I mean, they're lucky if they hit the target. But they're 2 feet over the target, 3 feet wide.
Yep.
I mean, it's all over the place. So we gotta make sure that whatever we decide on practice not only complies with the state law, but also is safe for the neighbors.
Is this a difficult thing to do, to get that kind of target practice for the staff to look into? Or is it just time consuming, or does this should be brought up at another time and we'll look at it at that point? What's the feeling
I
of?
agree with the mayor. It needs to be added up
Yeah.
later.
I was just asking to see what Justin had to say.
I mean, I'm going to look over at Janet here, but I don't think there's any objective criteria. It would almost be subjective, wouldn't it? I mean,
Here she comes.
how do you, because state law already, when you go through all these hunting ordinances, state law already talks about public right-of-ways, roads, we can restrict discharge of weapons on city property. So all that stuff is covered in state law. It's just a matter of private property, and like hunting, the way the hunting is written in state law, there are no minimum lot sizes. There are, it's just if it's private property. So I don't, that's,
If I'm correct, the way the ordinance has, if there is one of these ranges, it has to be approved by the chief of police, but there is no guidelines or parameters as to how you regulate that. I will tell you that we have had a request come in from the campus recently asking if they could start an archery team. And then we went to the ordinance, and I got with the city solicitor, and basically our advice to them was that I could not tell them they could have an archery team and do this at the campus they have over there, that it had to be approved by council. It must come to you. So I would have to dig into further research. I'm not an archery expert. I'm better with firearms ranges than I am with archery ranges. So it would take some time to dig into that to see what the industry standard would be. But I would be concerned about opening a can of worms with some of our neighborhoods and the houses being so close. For the various reasons Councilmember DeStadio said, those things will go everywhere, and when you're starting to learn how to shoot those things, you very rarely hit your target. But then when you get good and you have practice, you get very good at it. But I would just be concerned about the can of worms we could potentially open without delving into some more research.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief.
Anybody else? I think we're ready to
Yeah, I think-
get in compliance. Next
Yep.
meeting, we'll hopefully pass a responsible ordinance.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see here. Item D, Transportation Advisory Group changes. Justin?
all right. This one, we had, unfortunately, we had a resignation from our Transportation Advisory Group. My plan had been to, next time we had vacancies come open with TAG, which I thought was going to be later, was to go back and revisit this ordinance and the way it was written. But now that we've had a resignation, it kind of sped that timeline up. And the reason really we're looking at this is because when we wrote the Recreation Advisory Group, we made it a little different than the transportation one. And I think the recreation one was written a little better, with being more open-ended with applications, not as strict on who qualifies to sit on the group. And I think we've gotten about 20 applications for the Recreation Advisory Group, which was a good bit more than we got for transportation. And I think part of that reason is because it's not as restrictive in who can apply for it. Now, that, to me, that's great, because you get a lot of applications. You can be very selective with who you put on the actual group or board. So we want to make the Transportation Advisory Group similar, to where there's not as much restricting with who can apply to it. And then the biggest thing was taking our Public Works Director out of being a voting member, making them a non-voting member, like we did for the Recreation Director for the RAG, and adding one more voting member. So we would have the resignation position to fill, and then we would add one more voting member with this amendment. So we would fill 2 positions. And then hopefully we would get a good amount of applications, because it wouldn't be as restrictive with who can apply. That's basically the change. And then we're also adding a little bit of changes on donations, on that because the recreation group, we added that they can accept donations. At the end of the day, it would still come to council to accept the donations, but it gives authority to the TAG, just like it does to the RAG, to actually be able to solicit donations. And that's helpful, especially for smaller projects like this Eagle Scout project and things like that, for these citizen groups to help with these kind of more minor projects, maintenance projects.
Wonderful. Council, any questions or concerns about these changes? I think they're pretty straightforward.
No, ma'am.
And the only comment I have is, first of all, it's good. I like what you've done. Only thing I would ask is, in the application that we put out to get the people to apply, let's make sure there's a section that's on that application of, give us the background that you have for transportation, or any type of transportation, so that you get the right type of people that are going to be on there. Not that we need to have them, working for the DOT before they get to work on the RAG or the TAG group, but we should have at least an understanding, do they have some experience in dealing with this? So I don't know if you can do that on the
We will.
questionnaire,
No, we will.
but
I
otherwise,
think for recreation, we did it, like, explain your background in recreation. And then I think there's another question of, why would you be best to be on this?
okay, Good, as long as that's covered in the application, I got no problem with this
All right.
change.
Same thing for the planning commission.
Right.
Yep.
You get all kinds of people that are applying, and they give you their experience.
Right.
All right, wonderful. Item E, fiscal year 2025 budget amendment, pension trust interest. Kelly Bush.
Kelly.
Good morning. This is just a housekeeping. It's interest that we made on our pension contribution and then just some catch-up funds that were recommended by the actuaries.
Questions? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Item F, EMS billing vendors contract has moved to annual auto renew contract. Chief Murphy.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
So this is really, doesn't require action by you. This is for your knowledge. So we have a contract with EMS billing, and we have been through the 4 years of the initial contract. And in that contract, it allows us to auto-renew without changing anything. We have agreed with the vendor that we like their service and it's going into auto-renewal. So we will not be pursuing an RFP to try to choose another one. So we're just going to continue that. We give them notice just like any other contract with the city. So we just want you to know that that's going into it because it is a substantial amount of money that they collect for the city. So we just wanted you to have the knowledge of what's going on in the background.
What's a substantial amount?
Somewhere around $1 million.
About 800.
800,000?
Yeah, I was going to say,
800.
we go somewhere between 800 and $1 million, and it just depends on how many billable hours we have, and that's what they take care of it for us.
This is like our fourth company to do
Yes,
that.
so
It's
we've
really
been
hard
through
to find
almost
it.
every billing company in that's kind of in the industry. We've had the big three players, and we chose EMS MC this last time from RFPs, and they have far exceeded all the others. So that's the reason we want an auto renewal.
Okay,
All right.
good.
Thanks very much.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Is there a number of years that you can do the auto renewal before you have to go back out and get other bids?
So according to, unless Kelly knows something I don't know, no, the way it's written, we either they give us notice or we give them notice that we don't want to continue, and it can go on.
I mean,
and-
we have best practices. We would probably,
Yeah, we.
at some point in time, check to see if we found out that there was somebody new on the horizon, but it's a very
Right.
Okay.
And I-
limited.
And I think that's kind of what it says in your memo, that if we see some reason to change or it comes time,
Okay.
we will bring it back to you.
But there's no mandate, like every 3 years or 5 years?
No.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Item G, recommendation for benefits broker, Nicole Baxley.
Good morning, Madam Mayor and Council and staff and citizens. The Human Resources Department issued a RFP for health benefits broker services on November 5th to 3 brokers. An evaluation committee was formed consisting of city staff from the Financial and Administrative Services and Human Resources Departments. We received 2 proposals, and after evaluating each proposal, the committee invited consultants from the top 2 brokers to present in person. NFP Corporate Services was the highest scoring proposal, including cost and public sector clients, and is being recommended to the committee to serve as benefits broker for Peachtree City. We also want to note that we have not issued a RFP for broker services since 2008. Our current broker, McGriff, was invited to submit a proposal but declined. Their contract ended on December 31st. Our recommended broker consultant from NFP Corporate Services is here in the audience, and he has traveled from Alabama to be at this work session, Mr. Bart Shaw, and he's also brought along one of his staff, Melody Lewis, so we'd like to welcome them. And I am available and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
commend you for
I-
pulling together a committee and going through it all, and council, I certainly have no concerns about their conclusion.
The conclusions and the work that's done is wonderful. It's great. It's very comprehensive. My question really is, we all like to do a little bit of business locally. And I noticed that you put out 3 brokers. Were any of those 3 brokers here located in Peachtree City? Or
None of
were
the
there
brokers-
others that were qualified that are in Peachtree City?
No, there were no local brokers in Peachtree City located as the headquarters.
Okay. Well, that answers the question why you didn't get someone from local Peachtree City to bid. Thank you very much, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today.
Yep.
Sorry we don't have any hard questions to lob your way. H, resolution, call for 2025 municipal election for mayor, post 3 and post 4, and setting of qualifying fees. This is routine matter that on our work session agenda today means we will approve this in our January 16th city council meeting. Is there anything we need to know, Jasmine?
No, actually, this and the other 2 items following it, they're all routine, just housekeeping measures we do every January. Well, this one specifically is for an election because it's an election year. The only thing is that we do, by law, state law, have to approve this by February 1st. So, but there's nothing additional. Oh, I do have the dates. I do apologize. The qualifying dates would be the 3rd week in August, so that is August 18th through the 22nd. And voter registration, I believe it's going to be October 6th.
All right, thank you.
Good, that changes my question so that we didn't have those dates. So you do have those dates to put in there.
Correct. Secretary of State just released their calendar.
Fantastic. Thank you.
I do have one question. It kind of relates to that, but we hadn't brought it up so far yet. And that is, if we put this in place, but at some point in time after that, we change the city council and mayor salaries, can that just be amended as far as the memo with regard to the qualifying fees?
So changing the mayor and council salary is not that easy. You actually have to have hearings, and it wouldn't go in effect for this election cycle, so
Right.
it wouldn't change this one. If you all were to change it this year, it wouldn't go in effect until following the next election.
Following the next election, meaning in November, when those people take effect, going in. So if at some point in 2025, we changed the salaries, they would become effective 1/1 of 26?
No, I believe it is, I'll double check, but I believe it's the following election, not the upcoming election. So if you change it, it would be the following election. It would become effective. I'd have to double check that, though.
Okay,
They're really strict on how council members, any changes to salary. I'll get the information over the state law, get it over to you all for the process.
Okay, obviously that does not relate to this matter, so, I mean, it was just a question that I wanted to ask because if we went in that direction, but, okay.
All right, thank you. New agenda item A, fiscal year 2025 budget amendment and acceptance of donation toward the Kedron Pool boiler replacement.
So, well, I think,
Hold on one second. Sir?
I think you skipped one, isn't this the indemnification?
We have H, I, and J work session discussion items
Oh.
are the housekeeping nature, and those
Oh,
will be
okay,
on
so you
our-
lumped
We
them all
covered
as
them all
one.
together.
That's-
Actually, Jasmine so deftly covered all 3 of them.
Okay, I was just going through the thing and I said, that's the next one. Okay.
Okay, new
Continue.
agenda item.
okay, so we are asking you all to vote on this today. We received a generous donation of $150,000 from a private citizen who donated to the Peachtree City Aquatic Club, who then they're giving us the $150,000 towards the replacement of the Kedron Pool boiler. If you remember, the boiler went out earlier this year. We're working on a design to replace the boiler. Luckily, we have a older boiler that we're using as backup. So we're currently able to function, but we still need to replace the boiler. So this citizen who wanted to remain anonymous, I don't think they wanted any recognition for this, gave this donation, which is significant. And we don't want it sitting in our safe. We want to put it in the bank. So we wanted you all to vote on this today.
That's incredible. A $150,000 private donation. Can I get a motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the acceptance of this donation. What item number is it? It's not an item number.
New
Hey.
agenda item A.
New agenda item A, a 2025 budget amendment and acceptance of a donation toward the Kedron Pool Boiler Replacement.
Can I get a
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Council staff topics. I'll start with our February meeting schedule. We will have our work session the first Thursday in February, as always, which is February 6th. But because the 20th, which would ordinarily be our meeting in the evening, that is winter break week for Fayette County Public Schools. So I think we've talked before about pulling that ahead a week to February 13th. So the second convention of our council will be the evening of February 13th and not February 20th. Everybody good? Any other council staff topics?
Yeah, I just realized I had a second page with regard to the election thing, and is there any way prior to us submitting the memorandum to Fayette County Board of Elections with regard to the election that we could find out from them, like a price difference if we used security paper ballots that were hand marked instead of the Dominion equipment?
Unfortunately, the state law doesn't allow county to use, they have to use the Dominion or whatever's approved by the Secretary of State. They do use security ballots for the absentee by mail, but whatever is approved by the Secretary of State, they must use the same process. And our election is shared with all the cities that enter into an agreement with the county. So whatever they decide to use with the entire state, they must get approved, and then they also use it for every city in the county.
Well, actually, the laws with regard to the municipal elections does outline that the municipalities can do things different than what the state does.
When they run their own election.
Right.
Correct.
Another reason why I was pushing that. Okay.
All right. Anything else? Council staff topics?
Ma'am.
All right, I trust we have no executive session since we have no attorney today.
We do not.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?